Answers to quiz 2. Mark your own. Here we go. Graph the following lines. Well, line A and B and C are all going to be in slope-intercept form. I'll be able to graph those showing no work. Line F and line G I've memorized because those are the weird ones where you're missing an X and a Y, and I said these are worth memorizing. I'll graph those showing no work. I'm going to have to show a little bit of work, I think, for D and E. I'm going to have to rewrite stuff. But line A has a Y-intercept of -5, and the slope is up 2 over 3. Up 2 over 3. Up 2 over 3. Am I correct? That's line A. Mr. Duick, use a ruler. Your freehand is brutal. Ruler's not much better. Shut up. There is line A, 1 mark. Line B, I'll do these in different colors, but I don't have 8 different colors, so they'll start to overlap a bit. Y-intercept of +3, down 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, over 3. Down 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, over 3. Back 3, up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think line B is going to look like this. Yes, I think. Yoink. Line C, ooh, what's the Y-intercept for line C? If there is no Y-intercept, what does that really mean? 0. Goes through 0, 0. Oh, what's the fancy word for 0, 0? Begins with the letter O. Origin. Goes through the origin. And it has a slope of 3, or as a fraction, Alex, 3 over 1. That means up 3 over 1. Up 3 over 1. Up 3 over 1. Looks like this. There is line C. Line D. I need to rewrite this to get the Y by itself. So let's do that right here. Let's see. I guess the first thing I would do is I would minus 3x from both sides. I'll have 2y equals minus 3x and a minus 6. You could write -6 minus 3x, but I like to have my x and then my constant because that's what slope-intercept form looks like. Have I got the y by itself, Amber? Not yet. Divide by -2. Divide by -2. Divide by -2. By the way, some of you are just doing a big fraction line. Some of you are doing this, Amy. And I would advise you not to. The time saved is not worth the dumb mistakes. Some of you are going, jump. What happens when you do that is you forget to divide everything by -2. I find it's really worth it to say, you know what? Divide by -2 and divide by -2, because then I get a y and equals, what's a negative divided by negative? Why, Brianna, that's a positive 3 over 2x. And then I have a -6 divided by -2. That's a positive 3. This has a y-intercept of positive 3, and it goes up 3 over 2. Up 3 over 2. It looks like this. And we're starting to get crowded, sorry. But I was trying to save paper. That there is line D. Line E. Need to rewrite this in slope-intercept form. I think the first thing I would do is I would minus the 3x from both sides. And I'll get 5y equals -3x minus 10. Divide by 5, divide by 5, divide by 5. I'll get y equals -3 over 5x minus 2. It's got a y-intercept of -2, and then it's down 3, 1, 2, 3, over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Down 3, over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Back 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Up 1, 2, 3. Back 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Up 1, 2, 3. Is that correct, folks? People nodding? It's not like I've never made dumb mistakes before. All the time. Shut up. That was line E. Line F, y equals -8. Okay? Jordan, most kids can remember that when there's a letter missing, an X or a Y, they know it's either horizontal or vertical. They know it's one of those weird slopes, 0 or undefined. It's one of those weird lines. The line y equals -8, is that a horizontal line or is that a vertical line? This you need to know. So it's a horizontal line, -8 high. It's a horizontal line, -8 high. It is a horizontal line, -8 high. That there is F. The line x equals 2, is that horizontal or vertical? It's vertical. And Amy, what bugs kids is they want the letter x to be horizontal because the x-axis is a horizontal axis. But what you're really saying is the x-coordinate always has to be 2. Looks like this. Like that. So 1 mark for each of those. Number 2, state the slope and the y-intercept for the following equations. I think we're going to go a half mark each, or did I go 1 mark each? We'll find out when I add up everything. Maybe I went 1 mark. I don't know. Let me see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Plus 8 is 15, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. What did I say this quiz was out of? 22, so I guess I must have gone half mark each. That makes sense to me. Slope, a half for a half. Y-intercept, 3. Or you could say 0, 3 if you actually gave me the point. Because when x is 0, y is 3. Slope, -5/3. Y-intercept, -2 or 0, -2. C. Oh. You know what I need to do in C? I need to get the y by itself. So I think the first thing I would do is I would minus the 3x over. Then I would divide by -2, divide by -2, divide by -2. When I do that, I get y equals 3/2x minus 6. I get a y-intercept of -6. I get a slope of 3/2. By the way, being fussy, Brianna, the slope is 3/2, not 3/2x. Just 3/2. The slope is the number in front of the x, not the x itself. D. I would minus 3x from both sides, and then I would divide by 5, divide by 5. I get y equals -3/5x. Pretty sure the slope is -3/5. And I'm pretty sure the y-intercept is 0. Zilch. Zip. Half mark for each of those. Yep.
Actually, wouldn't that be 2 marks each because number 3 is only 1 mark?
I don't know. We're going to come and check in a second. We'll come back to it.
Okay.
Just put check marks and things. Which ones are lines? A, C, and F. I got a problem because number 3 is worth 1 mark, but how many answers did I write down?
3.
How about half mark off for any answers that you're missing or any extra ones that you have that you shouldn't? There's my workaround. I don't know. Number 4, find the x and y. Well, y-intercept is easy because that's in slope-intercept form. How do I find an x-intercept? Put a 0 in for? Because I asked you to. Put a 0 in for. I'll never get tired of that joke. Yeah, okay. To find the x-intercept, I'm going to go 0 equals 1/2 x minus 3. I'm going to plus the 3 over. I'm getting the x by itself. How? What's the 1 doing to the x? It's timesing, so technically I should divide by 1. But does dividing by 1 make any kind of a difference in my answer? No. What's the 2 doing to the x? Well, the 2 is on the bottom of a fraction, so it's dividing. So how will I move the 2 to the other side? What's the opposite of dividing by 2? Number 5, write the equations of the following lines in slope-intercept form. A, y equals, well, the y-intercept is positive 1. And the slope, the rise over the run is, oh, Mr. Duick, thank you. You put convenient dots there. That makes it way easier. Up 2 over 5, and don't forget to put an x there. Is that right? 2 over 5x plus 1? B, y equals, well, the y-intercept is is positive 3. Oh, slope is negative 1x plus 3. You can put the 1 in front of there. You don't have to. Negative x is negative 1x. Down 1 over 1, down 1 over 1, down 1 over 1, down 1 over 1. C, y equals 6. D, x equals negative 4. So, let's add this up. 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 7 and 7 are 14. And I said this is out of 22. So that means I was giving you 8 more marks. You know what? I think it is 1 mark for each of these puppies. So 1 mark for the slope, 1 mark for the y-intercept. Give yourself a clear score out of, count them, 22. Any lawyering with me? Now is the time. Otherwise, once you put a score out of 22, pass them inwards and I'll come grab them. Last day, I butchered a lesson on slope point form. It was lesson 5. We said this. There was 2 ways to write lines. Slope-intercept form, Ashley, which I think is easier. Get the y by itself. Y equals mx plus b. Works great, except if the y-intercept is a decimal. The one that works better in terms of being more universal is this y minus y1 equals m bracket x minus x1. Y minus the y coordinate of a point that it goes through equals the slope times in brackets x minus the x coordinate of a point the line goes through. I gave you some questions to try. One of the sheets was, well, which one was the lame sheet? Graphing C? Oh, graphing G and H. Okay. This is where I'm kicking myself. There is a much better way than what I taught you to do give me a point and the slope, find the equation. There's a much better way than point slope form. Point slope form works okay, but there is a better method. So if you did this, I'm okay with it if you're done. If you haven't finished it, I'm even going to say if you want to hang on to it till next week in lesson 7, 2 lessons from now, which means Monday, I'm going to show you what I think is a superior way, a one-size-fits-all method that lets you get pretty much any equation that you want to in about 3 lines. All right? Anyways, did anybody finish this? What is the dumb punchline? Why did Gyro go into a bakery?
Just for the smell of it?
Just for the smell of it. Aha, aha, aha. I figured it'd be something about dough or something like that, but that's a joke that makes me want to say dough. Yeah. And then I gave you the back page. This was also finding an equation if you have 2 points. Again, Marcus, if you finished it, great. I'm going to show you what I think is a far superior method than slope point form to get the equation. So if you didn't finish it, chill. And I think it's an easier method. But what happens when 2 fruit companies merged? What was the dumb punchline? Oh, you didn't get it? Oh, you don't remember it? Okay. Well, we'll have to do it another time. So what I want to do today is give you, holy smokes, we should do it, yet another form of a line. So we have slope-intercept, we have slope point. Today I'm going to be using what's called general form. General form is terrible to graph with, but it's the easiest to turn this into the equation for. You give me 2 points, I can get you the line in general form pretty quick. You give me 1 point and the slope, I can get you the line in general form pretty quick. 2 lines, cross multiply, and I'm good. That's its advantage. It's easiest if you give me yucky data to find an equation in general form. Otherwise, I really don't like it all that much. So now that I've both piqued your interest and depressed you, lesson 6. the general form of an equation. So recall, linear equation of form y equals mx plus b has a slope m and a y-intercept b. The general form looks like this. It says, make your equation equal to what? 0. And one more thing, get rid of any fractions. Oh, remember Felt-Sad? We learned how we can clear fractions, just multiply everything by a common denominator. So we can pull this off. The general form of the equation of a line is an equation where all the terms are connected or collected on the left side of the equation. In other words, make it equal to 0. It's going to look like this. ax, some number x, plus some number y, plus some number equals 0. The only other condition is capital A, capital B, and capital C all have to be integer values, which means if there's fractions, clear them out by multiplying everything by a common denominator. Okay? In some texts, this is referred to as standard form, but in the BC curriculum, we're calling it general form. Convert, it says, the following equations from slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b, into general form, ax plus by plus c equals 0. In other words, make this equal to 0. How would I do that for this first one, a? I think the easiest way would be to minus the y over to the other side. Because by doing that, oh, first of all, are there any fractions in a? Because I would clear any fractions first. There are none. Easiest way is going to be to go like this then. Except really I should put the minus y, I guess, hanging in midair over here just to show there's no y's to subtract it from up there. And I get this. 5x dropping down like a domino. Yes? A minus y dropping down like a domino. Yes? A minus 8 dropping down like a domino. And although technically I put the 0 on this side, I don't want to. That's the same, Alex, as having the 0 over here. And now it looks like ax plus by plus c equals 0. What's capital A in this question? 5. What's capital B in this question? Careful. -1. What's capital C in this question? Careful. -8. That's the lesson. Let's start the home. Well, let's practice a few more. B. Okay. Oh, is there a fraction? Let's clear it first. I'm going to multiply everything by a common denominator, which in this case is going to be what? 3. So do me a favor, put a little 3 right there, a little 3 right there, a little 3 right there. And I'm going to get 3y equals 3 times 2 divided by 3, 2x plus 21. Now I'll make it equal to 0. How? Okay, can you see, I wonder, can we go straight to the answer? There's going to be a 2x, yes? What else is going to be over on that side? A negative 3y, a positive 21. General form, Alex, is easier to do math with, but if you give me this equation and say graph it, I can't. I have to rewrite it either into slope-intercept form or into slope-point form, or I have to plug in a 0 for x, find the y-intercept, plug in a 0 for y, find the x-intercept. There's no way I can just glance at this and, ha-ha, graph it. So it's useless that way. It's useful in that it's easier if you give me an equation. Next lesson on Monday, I'll show you if I give you an equation. So if I give you maybe a slope and a point or 2 points or almost anything, it's much easier to write an equation in this form from scratch. Yes? What's 3 times 2? Divided by 3? 6? That's where the 2 came from. By the way, the other shortcut sim you could have done is you could have said, hey, Mr. Dewick, we are going 3 divided by 3, and all it's going to be left. How many 3's on top? 1. How many 3's on the bottom? 1. How many left? None. And there's just going to be a 2 sitting there on top. Is that all right? Yeah. That was so much fun. Let's try another one. Oh, fractions. What am I going to multiply everything by here? 20. So let's put a little 20 right here, a little 20 right here, a little 20 right here. I'm going to end up with 20y equals, this is going to be a negative. Can you see, Simi, 20 times 1 divided by 4, which is 20 times 1 divided by 4 with an x attached? Yes? Plus, and can you see it's going to be, now, you ready? You could go 20 times 3 and then divided by 5, but it's way easier to go 20 divided by 5 first. What's 20 divided by 5? 4. Times the 3 now with a smaller number, and you get 12 no matter what. Let's get the y by itself. How? Sorry, I said let's get the y by itself. I don't want to get the y by itself because that's going to end us right back where we started from. Let's make it equal to 0. Let's write it in general form, minus 20y from both sides. Yes? We'll have a negative 20y. We'll have a minus 5x. We'll have a positive 12 equals 0. Is that right? Mr. Dueck? Yes, Brianna. What if instead of minusing the 20y, what if instead I had decided to move this to that side by plussing it, and to move this to that side by minusing it? Now that would give me positive 20y. Well, let's go in order. That would give me a positive 5x, a positive 20y, and a minus 12. Yeah? Those are the same equation. So I'd like you to copy that second equation, put the word or, copy that second equation down. You're going to find, Simi, for each one of these, when you're writing an equation in general form, there's two answers. Your answer and everything opposite. So if you say, oh, my equation is positive 3x minus 2y minus 7 equals 0, negative 3x plus 2y plus 7 equals 0 also works. Yep.
Isn't it supposed to be 20y, not just 20?
Yeah, that would work. Candy for you later. So going back to here, or negative 2x plus 3y minus 21, that's also an answer. And the reason I'm saying that, Marcus, is when you do one of these, you may suddenly find, oh, I did a y there, Mr. Dewick? Good gosh, do I have y's on the brain? Negative 2x plus 3y. You may find, Alex, that your answer doesn't match the back of the book. It's completely opposite, then you're still right. This one here could be negative 5x plus y plus 8 equals 0. Which one's right? They both are. Although usually if everything is negative, because I hate negatives, then I'll choose to rewrite it with everything positive. But if there's some and some, whatever. Turn the page. Now they've given me an equation in general form. How do I know? Because it's equal to 0. They want me to find the slope and the y-intercept. How can I do that? Now I can get the y by itself. Okay. How would I get the y by itself here? What would my first step be? I think by the way, divide, laugh. Remember that FELTSAT acronym? Fractions are none. Expand brackets are none. Gather like terms are none. Add and subtract, then divide last. So yeah, I would add 5y. In fact, you know what I would do? Can we do this showing no work? I would drop the 2x down. I would drop the plus 25 down equals 5y. Now what? Now Jordan is right. Divide by 5, divide by 5, divide by 5. Final answer, y equals 2 over 5x plus 5. We haven't answered the question yet because the question didn't say write this in slope-intercept form. What the question said was determine the slope and the y-intercept. So now that I got that, What's the slope? 2/5. What's the y-intercept? 5. Yoink. Try B on your own. I'll do it up here. Let's see if we get the same thing. Is that right, Mr. Duke? Double check your math. Yeah. By the way, going back to this one here, what was the slope of this graph? What was the slope? Can you see a 2 and a 5 hidden in the general form equation anywhere? What was the y-intercept of this graph?
5.
Can you see something that works out to a 5 hidden in this equation anywhere? Hey, what was the slope? -3. Can you see a -3 hidden in this equation anywhere?
Yes.
Sort of. What was the y-intercept? 15/2. Can you see a 15/2? I guess, Marcus, if you really wanted to memorize it, I don't bother because I'm so good at equation solving that I can do this in 1 second. But for what it's worth, I guess the y-intercept is also change the sign of this number, divide by the y coefficient. That's where the 15/2 came from. And I guess the slope is also change the sign of this number, divide by the y coefficient. That's where the... I don't know if that's actually really all that worth memorizing. I would probably just rewrite it in slope-intercept form and crunch the numbers. But for what it's worth, there is a pattern. Ooh, example 3. Those two lines have the same y-intercept. Determine the value of k. Say what? Which one has the k in it?
So 5x.
Let's find the y-intercept of the first one. How? Write it out. More specific. I mean, yeah, you're right. By the way, answering that, giving me that answer, you'll never be wrong ever in math. If I say how and you say write something, true enough. I agree. Even if write it out. True enough. I agree. We need to be more specific. How can you find the y-intercept of that first line? Oh, let's get the y by itself. Okay, we can do that. I would plus the 4y over. And then I would go divide by 4, divide by 4, divide by 4. I get y equals 3/4 x plus 2. Oh, what's the y-intercept? Two. Or as a point, yeah. Okay. This graph has the same y-intercept. What does that mean? That means when x is 0, y equals what? Let's plug that into this equation. Let's rewrite the 5. When x is 0, minus k, y is 2, See what I did, Amy? I said, well, if that's the y-intercept, I should be able to reverse engineer the y-intercept. Now, instead of saying, let the x be 0, find the y-intercept, I'm saying, well, if I plug in the y-intercept, I should be able to figure out what k has to be to make it work. By the way, that first term, what is 5 times 0? Oh, so I get negative 2k minus 6 equals 0? Can I solve for k? Oh, how? Not going to divide yet. First, I'd plus 6 to both sides. You guys all wanting to divide first. Always divide last. Last thing you do. Negative 2k equals positive 6. Now what? Divide by negative 2. Divide by negative 2. Apparently, the number that I want in front of the y is a negative 3. In fact, in the original equation, it would be a minus 3. It would look like a plus 3 to me when I wrote it out. Yep. How many more? A couple more. Yep. And then we're done. You know what? Before you go, you want the homework really quickly? I'm probably going to assign number 1. I've already given you a whole sheet like number 2 where I gave you an equation and said find the slope and the y-intercept. So I think I'm going to skip that because I think you guys are pretty good at that. Same with, I think, number 3. I'm going to do a better way to do number 4 and number 5. Hang on. Number 8. Number 9. Number 10. Number 11. Nope. Let's go back to the notes then. Says, which of the following lines is or are perpendicular to that line right there? What do we know about perpendicular lines? We have done something with perpendicular lines. If two lines are perpendicular, what can you tell me, Ben?
They're negative reciprocals.
What are negative reciprocals? Word that begins with the letter S and rhymes with opes.
Slopes.
Okay, the slopes are negative reciprocals. You know what I think I need to do? I need to rewrite all 3 of these quickly into actually all 4 of these into slope-intercept form so I can find the slope, and then I'll see which of those last 3 are negative reciprocals. Let's do the first. I think we can do the first one right up here, and I'll do each one of these underneath. So this first one, I think the first thing that I would do is I would plus the 2y over, like that. Is that okay, Naomi? And then how would I get the y by itself? Divide by 2, divide by 2, divide by 2, and I get this. Y equals 2x plus 9 over 2. I don't care about the y-intercept, but here's what I know. My original line has a slope of 2. Yes? So, what will a perpendicular slope have a slope of? Negative 1 over 2. You're looking at the y-intercept, right? Right? It's negative reciprocal of the slope, not of the y-intercept. So it's going to have a slope of negative 1/2 instead of 2 over 1, 1 over 2. Oh, and opposite. All right. Let's rewrite line 1. Let's rewrite line 2. Let's rewrite line 3. Line 1, I think the first thing that I would do is I would minus the 3y to both sides. Yeah? And then divide by -3, divide by -3, divide by -3. I would get y equals -6/3 in lowest terms is what? 2x plus 1/3. What's the slope of that line? -2. Is that perpendicular? Is that? Let's do the same thing for this one. I think I would minus the 2y over. And then I would go divide by -2, divide by -2, divide by -2. And I would get y equals, how would I write x over -2? First of all, positive or negative?
Positive.
X divided by -2, positive? Positive or negative?
Negative.
Definitely negative. What number is on top sitting right there in front of the x? It's invisible. Oh, so are you saying that this is actually the same as -1/2 x and then plus 6? What's the slope of this line? -1/2. Is it perpendicular?
Yes.
Third one. Let's get the y by itself. I guess I could have minus the 5x over for that matter. Oh well. Divide by -10. Divide by -10. I'm going to get this. Y equals,
-1/2 x.
because 5 over -10 is again -1/2. By the way, what's the y-intercept of this graph? 0, and the slope down 1/1. Oh, perpendicular, yes or no? Ah, it is. Were any of these parallel to the original line? Which one? Really? What was the slope of that first line? -2. What was the slope of my original line? +2. That's a -2 slope. That's a +2. They aren't parallel either. They're going to cross at some wonky angle. I don't know what. They're not reciprocals. They're not going to cross at a nice right angle. But those not the same slope. They can't be parallel. Okay. Example 5, we're going to pass on. This is writing equations of lines, and this is where I decided after photocopying this lesson, I can show you a better Swiss Army knife approach using one thing that you can adapt to all of your needs. So, example 5, we're going to look at questions like this on Monday. But we can try example 6. It says, these are the kind of multiple choice questions they can throw at you on a provincial. A student made the following statements about that equation there. The first statement is that the line has a slope of 5. Is that true? Greg's shaking his head. Amazingly, Greg is right. Why? What is the slope of that line actually? By the way, because they didn't put the y by itself. They tried to trick you. They gave it to you in mostly slope-intercept form, hoping kids are so used to just looking at the number in front of the x that they would say, oh, slope is 5. No, no. I say to you, no, no. This is really y equals 5 over 2x plus 6. So, no, no, because statement 1 is wrong. I'm looking right now probably at C, but let's keep going. Let's work through the statements. What does statement 2 say? It says the line is parallel to that. If they were parallel, what do I know?
Exactly the same. Slope are equal to each other.
They're not quite equal to each other. Well, you use the word they. I don't know what you mean by they. I heard it better here. Someone said it? The slope is the same. If you said they, I didn't know whether you meant the lines are the same or the slope is the slope is the same. So how can I find the slope of statement 2? Oh, rewrite it, slope-intercept, get the y by itself? Okay, let's do that. So someone said plus 4y. 10x plus 13 equals positive 4y. Divide by 4, divide by 4, divide by 4. And I get this. Y equals 5 over 2x plus 13 over 4. What's the slope of statement 2? 5 over 2. What's the slope of statement 1? Or of the initial line? 5 over 2. Are they parallel? Let's go like this. No, yes. Right? Jordan, can you read statement 3 to me?
The line passes through -2, 1.
How can I tell if a line passes through -2, 1? What it really means is if you put a -2 in for x, you know what y should work out to be? Positive 1. If it doesn't go through it. So you ready? If you put a -2 in for x, then y should work out to, according to that statement, if it's true, Brianna, positive 1. Let's see if it does. What is 5 times -2? Divided by 2.
-5.
So I get this. Right? What is -5 plus 6? When x is -2, does y work out to 1?
Yes.
That is a true statement. And the correct answer, Alex, my friend, is C. Okay. They love these questions on friendship. By the way, I hate these questions because this is a question that's actually 4 questions in one. You have to solve 4 separate I hate multiple choice questions like this. I think these are terribly written, but I tried getting them drummed out when I was on the provincial exam review committee and I couldn't, so we're stuck with them. I hate them. What's your homework? Number 1. Number 8. 9, 10, 11. I'm giving you lots of time. No homework for the weekend if you play your cards right.